Welcome to the Down South Hunting Podcast. This is Adam Cruz and Mike Higman. Mike, how are you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing good. I am ready to talk some hunting. I've been working at a trade show all day for work, which I do like my job, but I'm ready to talk some hunting instead of normal work stuff.
I got to do a little hunting this weekend. Absolutely did. I did no good whatsoever. Got to go back to the old homestead. Didn't see a deer, but I got to take my little 6-year-old out for the first time this year, and he had a ball. Got to take him out there. He clicked the horns together and did a little grunting and saw some squirrels and decided, hey, Dad, it's time to start squirrel hunting instead of deer hunting. So
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it was a good time, man.
I'm definitely, I need to get my first squirrels this year. I went once last year for the first time and didn't really put much effort into it, and I definitely want to get the kids out and do some squirrel hunting this year.
Hey man, check this out. When next time I go on public land, I'm going to do some public land scouting on around these islands that I hunt, and I'm going to take the kids in on the kayaks, and we're going to do some squirrel hunting on those islands. I think that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just don't flip it over. We've actually had a little bit of cold weather finally, so don't want to end up in the water there. So today on the podcast, we're going to be interviewing Bryan Landry of Stick Talons, and he lives in Louisiana and goes to hunt every year in Mississippi. And you and I have talked some about maybe doing a late season hunt in Mississippi, which isn't going to happen this year, but it's something I'm definitely interested in. You know, that black belt area of Alabama or Mississippi where you get that late rut. It sounds like a way to get a rut hunt in late. It'd be pretty cool.
Yep. We could always plan if nothing else.
Hey, one last thing before we jump into this interview with Bryan is we have had a ton of reviews on iTunes. So I just want to thank everybody that's done it already. We've got over 50 reviews. A lot of them, they were comments and a lot of cool stuff that people said, and thank you so much for that. Some people didn't want to think of anything to write and just gave us a star review, and that's cool too. So just want to thank everybody that's done that. If you haven't, if you could just take a few moments, it really helps the podcast out when you do it. Let's go ahead and jump in this interview. All right, we got Bryan Landry from Stick Talons on the line with us. And I know that Bryan lives in Louisiana and does quite a bit of hunting in Mississippi. And from what I've seen, I'd consider him an expert on mobile hunting as far as getting set up and different methods for it. Welcome to the podcast, Bryan.
How you folks doing tonight?
I'm doing real good.
I can't complain. It turned a little cold tonight, but other than that, it's good.
And normally that's a good thing when we're talking hunting.
Not when you're working all week.
Yeah.
I'd rather it be warm during the week and get that good cold front moving in right at the weekend.
Yeah, that does sound pretty good to me. So Bryan, can you kind of give us an idea of basically where you hunt and how you hunt, just to get us started?
Okay. Well, I live in South Louisiana, about 45 minutes north of New Orleans. We do have quite a bit of public land around here, but it's mainly flooded cypress swamp, and I don't particularly enjoy hunting here. So most of my hunting is done about 2.5 to 3 hours away in Mississippi, along the Mississippi River on some public land. Because of time restraints and how long it takes me to get there, I don't get in quite as much time as I would like to. So that kind of lends itself to what I do as far as being mobile and setting up all my gear so I can move around quickly and as efficiently as possible. Sometimes I'll travel 2.5 hours to make a 4 or 5 hour evening hunt. So the gear and the setups and stuff have to be geared to, getting in, getting set up, one trip up the tree, and most of the time it's doing it as quickly as possible because I'm usually always up against some kind of time constraints.
Now you driving 2.5 hours, and you said you're only getting maybe one hunt every 4 to 5 hours. You not spending the night for most of these hunts, or are you spending the night on some of these?
No. Most of these hunts are day hunts for me. I have my regular job. I also do the mobile hunting gear thing on the side, and I have 3 kids. And my son's pretty heavily involved in all kind of sports. So, every now and then I'll break away for a 2-day, 3-day hunt. But for the most part, I'll leave here at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, run up, do an all day hunt. Hunt the morning, get down, do some scouting, hunt the evening, and then turn around and come back home.
Have you been able to get out much this season so far?
I'm just really getting kicked off here. We're probably about a week or so away from pre-rut. Our rut is generally, peak is the first week of January. So I kind of scaled it back this year and didn't do a whole lot of early season hunting. I had all intentions of making multiple trips to Missouri this year, and kind of poor planning on my part. I winded up not even getting to Missouri this year. So no, I have not done a whole lot of hunting. I really just started week before last.
That's funny to hear you say doing early season hunting when most of the country's hunting seasons are winding down and you're just getting started. So that's pretty cool, man. That's one reason I'm really interested in hunting down there where you're at.
Yeah, we like I said, where I'm at, we're generally the first week of January. Actually, right here around my house is similar time frames, but if you really wanted to in Louisiana, you could chase the rut from late September all the way through February.
Wow.
That's the
sounds
range.
A lot like Florida.
Yeah, that's the range across the state is, from September to February, something's going on, somewhere.
Do you do much hunting in Louisiana at all?
I don't. If I'm hunting in Louisiana, it's generally right here around my house. I have a little piece of private land right here that I can generally kill a deer on if I need some meat. And I do hunt a couple little bow only public pieces, but the bulk of my trips, I'm headed to Mississippi. I don't really have anything within, 30, 45 minutes of my house other than the swamp. So if I'm going in Louisiana, I'm probably driving 45 minutes to an hour. So if I'm gonna do that, I generally just keep on heading further north where it's, better deer.
So it sounds like you're hunting primarily public land. Is that correct? For the most part?
Yeah, I'm about 99% public land. The only private I hunt is a little chunk here behind the house.
How many different WMAs or pieces of public land do you actually hunt? Do you hone in on one particular one, or do you have a bunch of different ones that you like to hit throughout the year?
I've kind of made a switch, I guess, about 3-4 years ago. And the bulk of my time I've been focusing on one particular wildlife refuge. But over the course of the last 10, 15 years, I've bounced around and hit, 10 to 15 in Louisiana and about 5 or 6 in Mississippi.
How did you get started hunting in Mississippi? How did you decide to start hunting there? And then how did you get set up for your first trip out there?
I actually started going to Mississippi with my dad when I was probably 7. And he always hunted public land. So I tagged along with him. And then I finally started bringing my own gun at 11 and shot my first deer in Mississippi, which was a spike. And at the time, non-residents were not allowed to shoot does on public land. And that was the case up until about, I guess, 2, maybe 3 years ago, that they finally started allowing non-residents to shoot does. So, and my dad, he worked full-time job too, and it was similar time constraints to what I deal with now. So we pretty much just went up on weekends. And back when I started, we couldn't hunt on Sundays either because there was no Sunday hunting. So it was pretty much Saturday trips and then during holiday.
So, Bryan, what mapping service are you using for your online scouting?
If I'm on a computer, I usually go with Cal Topo, and a combination of Google Earth and Bing. On my phone, I use GPS Kit, and on X, I've been using GPS Kit for about 3 years now. It's definitely my preferred app, and I actually don't use a handheld unit. I bring my phone and generally have a backup battery. I personally think the maps on the phone, you can't even touch them trying to go with a handheld unit. And I guess that, the only issue is the battery life, and it can cause an issue, but, going back and forth, driving 2 hours, you got plenty of time to charge your phone, so that's not usually an issue for me.
Those mapping software, well, the mapping apps on your phone will just absolutely drain your battery. Even if you put it on airplane mode and go to like the offline maps, mm-hmm. I know for mine, it's just, I can't keep the thing charged. So I'm like you, I just have to have a charging pack. I'm interested on you using Cal Topo because I don't know if the listeners out there have tried using different softwares online for mapping, but Cal Topo is very powerful. And what I'm trying to figure out with Cal Topo, and I'm curious if you've figured this out yet, is the shading, where you can shade the different elevations. Have you been able to figure that out, and has that helped you determine, and you may be flat where you're hunting in Mississippi, so I don't know, but I would see that as a pretty powerful tool.
No, Cal Topo is awesome. And what I have done the shading, but what I do is I have a link to a post on the Hunting Beast website. I forget the user's name, but he detailed everything out. So whenever I want to shade, I just pull his post up and type in the little code to do the shading. I find that is very helpful in hill country, as far as finding kind of that third elevation and then the leeward side of the hills. But what I really like about it is the standard shading on it that you just click on the shading. The gradient shading is what it is. And the reason I use it is because the refuge has about 3,500 acres of hills, and it's really more of just steep cut drains going through there. And you can get in like a creek bottom, and then you can go up a drain, and you get to the head of this drain, and you're looking at a 40 to 80 foot sheer cliff. So what I like the gradient shading for is when I'm doing my map work and trying to figure out access, I know if it's green or yellow, I'm good. I can go up it. If it's orange, you're going to have to kind of pick routes, and it may or may not be doable. If it's red, you can hang it up, unless you're going to, rock climb or something.
Man, that is awesome. And if you don't mind, when we get off this call, I'll get that link from you, and I'll post it up in our show notes so the listeners, they can go back and read that particular blog post on the Hunting Beast, so they can go back and do it with theirs as well.
What that does, you set it for like a default gradient. Like say you want all 25-degree south-facing slopes, and then you tell it the color, and it'll shade all that for you. So that's what you have to actually write the code for. Just clicking on the gradient shading little box turns all shading on based on the slope of the hills, no matter which facing it is. So that's an easy, you click on it. And what I generally do in the hills is I like to look at terrain. So Google terrain map with an overlay of enhanced shading. So it kind of gives you that 3D look, that dark side, and then click on the graded shading so I can see how steep the terrain is. And that's generally what I'm looking at for hill country. And, I might switch on the aerial view just to kind of see what the cover is, but it's not really, it's not really important to me in hill country.
So where were you able to pick up all this information? Was that off the Hunting Beast or YouTube? I mean, you're doing some things that I just haven't been able to figure out yet, so I'm really curious there.
I think the first experience with Cal Topo was through the Hunting Beast. Prior to that, I was using Google Earth with like a topo overlay. And what I really liked about GPS Kit app is I can go out scouting. I could turn the track on. I can lay down all my waypoints. I can spend the whole day. And when I'm done, I email that data set to myself, come back on the computer, open it up, and I can pull it up in Google Earth. Then when I got to Cal Topo, that's why I kind of stuck with Google Earth, because it had that ability. Well, when I got to Cal Topo, you can do the same thing. And you can also lay out your access routes on Cal Topo and then email it to yourself and pull it up in GPS Kit. So they go both ways.
Man, I feel like you need to do a webinar on this, really. I'll pay you.
If I'm not mistaken, I think some of the stuff is very similar to the way Garrett, DIY Sportsman, laid it out. The only thing he does is he uses a handheld unit in on his little YouTube video. But he goes in depth about his blind scouting, and me and him do very similar things, except his video addressed it using a handheld unit. If I'm not mistaken, I caught him on his podcast the other day. I think he's now switched over to mainly using his phone as well.
Okay, yeah, I did watch that one where he did the overlay on his GPS unit. That's really good for anyone that hasn't watched it.
It is. To me, that's way more difficult than just getting the app. I mean, you got to have your phone anyway, as long as you got somewhere to charge it. Most are waterproof now. You get a waterproof case for it. For me, it's just way easier to go with the phone. And then you got, I know GPS Kit has the option for Google Terrain, Google Hybrid Aerials. You can do a custom topo, and then you also have Bing on it. So you can switch between any of those maps.
Can you talk a little bit more about that app versus, so I personally have used Backcountry Navigator for several years. I know a lot of people use Hunt Stand. I don't know if you have experience with those apps, but maybe could you compare some of those if you have?
I have tried, it was Cabela's. What was the Cabela's app? Forget the name.
I don't know that one. Cabela's app.
I've always had an iPhone, and I think it was Recon or something of that nature. I used it. It had very similar features to GPS Kit. I think it didn't have quite as many maps, but the downfall was it was kind of like OnX, to where if you wanted to pull up your tracks and stuff, you logged into their map server. You couldn't email it out and open it wherever you wanted to. So my preference is still GPS Kit for that reason, that I can get that data out of there. I don't know if OnX has went to that yet, or you still have to log into your OnX account to see it, because I would prefer now to get my tracks and waypoints into Cal Topo instead of looking at them on OnX's map site.
Okay, and I'm pretty sure with Backcountry Navigator, you'd be able to email those back and forth as well. I believe they're probably just .kml files that you're using. So that might be another option.
Yeah, it's either .kml or KMZ that they'll import or export to. Now, Backcountry, that if I'm not mistaken, that was kind of an Android thing, was it not?
Yes, I use Android, so maybe that's why Backcountry Navigator is what I'm using. Okay.
I can confirm it does not exist on iOS.
Gotcha.
All right.
Yeah. See, that same thing. My buddy uses Android, so he's on Backcountry, and I use GPS Kit because I always had an iPhone.
Well, we're trying to convert Mike to Apple, but he's lagging, man.
Yeah.
That's about all I can say.
He's resistant, huh?
Man, I just can't afford it.
The reason I stuck with Apple is because of GPS Kit. I couldn't get it on Android, so I just stayed with Apple.
And it's $10, so once you pay for it, you don't want to pay for it twice either.
Man, you cannot buy an iPhone for $10.
No, GPS Kit.
No, look, man, I actually spent like $15 on it when I bought it, man.
Well,
it was the most expensive app I've ever purchased.
I know if it's as good as Onyx or better, then it's definitely worth it. I know Onyx has its quirks, some things I don't like about, like you said, having to log in to get your maps. I've actually had instances where Onyx updated their app and it logged me out, and I got to my hunting area, went to pull up my map, and I couldn't log in because it didn't have service. So I was out there without my map. So that's a big deal, and it's something I try to always think about when I leave my house. Is like, okay, log into Onyx, then just make sure it's you're good to go. So you have your offline map there.
Yeah, here's another thing: the Onyx and some of the other ones I've dealt with, you have to cache those maps. GPS Kit, I know it has a caching feature, but I've never used it because if I pull up any maps when I have service, I guess it automatically caches them, because when I go to no service, as long as I've looked at it previously, the maps are there. Now, if I try, say I plan on hunting the South Indian Refuge, and I did my map work on my phone, I looked at stuff, and if for some reason I say, you know what, I'm going all the way to the north end, and for some reason I hadn't looked at it after an update or something, and I get up there, then I won't have the maps. But if I've looked at them previously, prior to doing any updates or anything, they're there. They're cached automatically. So you don't go in and save the little grids, like you do on most of them.
Yep, that's what I'm doing with Onyx, is like saving a 5 mile or 10 mile grid.
Mm-hmm. Right. Which works good if you plan on staying in that grid. As soon as you go outside that grid, then you're screwed.
Yep. Well, sticking with the theme of maps for a second, and I wasn't expecting you to be a hill country hunter, so I like that. That's mainly the type of terrain I'm hunting in and all across the state of Tennessee. When I'm going to new areas, I'm usually looking for certain types of terrain features. Are there any types of terrain features that you gravitate towards when you're hunting a new public land area?
Yeah, in the hills, I like long connecting ridges, either north-south or east-west. It doesn't really matter. But I'm looking for something that a buck can get on and cruise and cover a good bit of ground without having to dip down, cross over, something he can get on and cruise for a half a mile and, run into some kind of hub or something where he can easily pick up scent. And that's been my most productive hunts and camera pulls, is on some kind of long ridge that ultimately funnels somewhere into a hub or something.
Now, how high or how low will you be on that ridge when you hang a tree stand?
I generally stay around about the third elevation where most of the cruising is. And most of I'm gonna say probably 80% of my sets are gonna be at the top of draws. Something that's gonna try to funnel the deer up and around so they can't just cruise that whole ridge. That they're gonna want to stay on that third, but I want something that I know is gonna push them up and around, and mainly because I got a bow in my hand.
Yeah, it's going to bring them right by your tree stand. I get exactly what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first things I look at, and I'm gravitating towards, is saddles. And I haven't hunted a ton of public land in the past, but I have been this year. I've tried to stick with it completely. And what I figured out is 99% of the other hunters that are looking at maps are also gravitating towards saddles. So I'm trying to figure out new ways. And so what you just explained is something different than anyone else's a different way of putting it. So I thought that was a really good answer.
And I want to clarify something real quick. When you're talking about the third, you're talking about 1/3 of the way down the hill from the top to the bottom, correct?
Right. The upper third.
Yeah.
And
okay.
It's so basically, I guess what it's how it's put on the hunting beast is the military crest, and basically what you're looking for as the ridge may have a gradual slope, but then when it starts steepening that slope, that's the military crest. And sometimes it's at the third, sometimes maybe it's a little lower, maybe it's a little higher. But generally, if you're walking that height elevation of the ridge, that is where the most sign's going to be. As far as rubs, now that sometimes they'll get on the top and the bottom and straight. But generally, if you're walking that, there's going to be a rub line, and there's going to be a deer trail, because bucks and does like to travel at that height. Bucks generally bed at that height. The does are sometimes bed up top, but the bucks generally bed at that height.
It's funny you mentioned that. I've actually been using my map this year on public land, so when I find rubs and any type of buck sign, I'm marking waypoints to see if that the third of the way to the top holds true, and it does every single time. I was with one of my buddies not too long ago, and we were going through there, and he's asking, he's like, "What are you doing? Marking there?" And I was like, "Man, I'm just seeing if this is, if it's consistent," and it's been consistent all season long. Most of the sign that I'm find in hill country is a third away from the top.
Yeah, but I agree. Hill country is a slam dunk as far as finding beds. Like they're there. They're where they're supposed to be. The problem is setting up and hunting those particular beds. Wind is notorious problem in hill country. Access is generally a problem because of the more open cover. But there is no doubt almost hard and fast rules of how deer move in that hill country.
What is your typical access like when you're going to hunt the top of a draw, a third of the way down the hill? How are you, if you're given a choice, how would you want to access that?
Man, perfect scenario, I would love to access straight up the creek bottom and right up the draw and to my stand. Where I currently hunt, that happens only maybe 10% of the time because you can't get up that draw. Most of my access is usually, though, I try to stay low as long as I can and then pop up to keep my scent off of the ridge, or I will crest the ridge and drop down into my stand. I mean, I would prefer to stay in the draws. Just where I'm hunting now, it's not really possible.
So does that not change from a morning and an evening hunt versus going in from the down low and going in from up high?
No, not really, because if I'm going in the morning, I'm going to try to go early enough so I don't have a thermal rise to deal with. So if I'm staying low, I still have dropping thermals. The thermals are not going to switch till 7, 8 o'clock when the sun comes up and starts heating up. The afternoons, you do have the thermal rise to deal with, but you can always kind of, hang back a little bit later and wait till they drop.
Gotcha. Now, maybe changing gears just a little bit, but as far as your access, I see on your website that you're actually using a kayak a lot. Do you access a lot of your areas by kayak and water access only?
That is my flat ground hunting is where the kayak comes into play. I do a lot of my access by kayak. It's just way more efficient. It beats the heck out of packing stand and sticks, 2 miles when you can paddle in for 2 miles. Like I said, though, the issue that I'm kind of learning is going 2 miles might get me away from everybody, but it's not going to get me away from the hogs. It's usually going to put me slap right in the middle of them.
So when you're scouting, are you as much scouting for hog sign as marking areas off, or do the hogs move around so much you can't really scout ahead for where the hogs are at? You almost have to scout as you go, and if there's hog sign, just keep moving.
Yep, that's pretty much it. I can't tell you how many bedding areas I've scouted and then turned around and came back and hunt, and they were shot. The hogs moved in, and there was not a deer track, a deer sign, nothing.
That's kind of alarming for, based on, we had Lindsey Thomas on a while back, and we had Bronson Strickland, both of which were talking about hogs as a problem. Do you see that just continuing to grow as a problem? Where do you see the end game with that?
Man, I have no clue. I have no idea what they can do with them. I do agree that hunting them is not the solution. You just flat cannot kill enough of them. I don't know if poison's the answer. I truly don't know, what the solution is. I just know it is a serious problem. I listened to, I believe it was Bronson, this podcast about hogs. And they kind of kicked around some ideas, and that the best solution right now, they seem to think, and I would have to agree with it, is trapping them. But there's really no kind of massive trapping efforts going on the public land I hunt. That's more of a private land, solution. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I don't know how well it's going to work, but I went to a seminar at the QDMA convention about basically poisoning for hogs. And first off, to me, it sounds like a very unappetizing solution for it. But based on what they talked about in the seminar, they are developing some toxins that are very specific to hogs, because basically the problem is I don't want them putting poison out there that's going to kill everything in the woods, whether it feeds on them or they get in a water supply. But basically nitrates are extremely poisonous to hogs, but they're not real harmful to most other animals. So I think they're working on developing something that's going to target hogs specifically. The question is, hogs are pretty smart if they're going to figure out, how to avoid poison as well. So unfortunately, I think that might be where we're headed in areas that are like yours. The areas I hunt, it's almost they're not bad enough to the point where it's actually a lot of times good to see one, because that's a harvest opportunity. But I certainly do not want to get to where you're at, where it ruins the hunting for everything else because of hogs.
Right, and I think that's where it started here. Obviously the problem came in when hog hunting turned into kind of like a big sport. The dog hunting, and hogs got caught and they got transported for, closer hunting opportunity. And, once they're there, they're not going away. I went to a seminar as well. I'm pretty sure it was the QDMA branch of Louisiana, and the same thing with the nitrate. They were trying to come up with a delivery method is what they were trying to do. I know they talked about sardines, something to specifically target hogs with the delivery method instead of, any kind of an eagle or something picks that up and dies, then that program, it's shot. So
yeah, I think they're working on specific delivery methods where it's a feeding system where only a hog or a hog type animal would be able to open it, and obviously with a fish type product, you wouldn't have deer and stuff eating it as well. So that may be something that we might want to talk to a biologist on a future podcast. I'd like to get into some mobile hunting now. Can you maybe give us a quick rundown of maybe your evolution as a mobile hunter and some of the things you've tried and build up to where you're at now?
Yeah. I first started hunting. We were always pretty mobile, but it was mostly from the ground. I guess around my teenage years, started a climber. I used various climbers. I settled on, I believe it was like a Summit Bushmaster with the open front to have a bow hunt out of. I used that stand for probably 5 years or so. Extremely comfortable stand, fairly lightweight stand. It just, the noise factor of walking through the woods and brush catching it, hanging off of it, setting it up, climbing was a little noisy. Then I met Mr. Womack. He's kind of a local legend around here, and he turned me on to a lock-on stand, and actually I caught it right when lock-on had come back in business, and I bought a lock-on limit that was 8 pounds. Then I had to figure out a way to get up a tree. I never was too keen on climbing spurs. I had actually was in the tree business through my college years and had used spurs and knew that I did not want to use spurs in a hunting application. Screwing steps didn't really appeal to me. So ultimately I settled on some Lone Wolf sticks, and that was my setup for about 2 years. And then in an effort to lighten the load, I ran into a rock climbing harness and quickly figured out that the rock climbing harness was way, way better off suited for my style of hunting than a traditional harness. And what it allowed me to do was just take one stick and climb to any height I wanted to, and use the limit. So I had basically a 9-pound setup that was basically like a climber, just packed a whole lot better and was a whole lot lighter. So, I used that for quite a few years, and then I kind of started getting more into the bed hunting and switched properties and kind of evolved into a Lone Wolf Assault, one of the older models that was 8 pounds, and sticks to go with that. And I'll pick up the one stick if I'm going deep or something on a rut type hunt in the hills. I can go light. I can get to any height I want to. But if I'm going somewhere with nasty trash trees, big trees, limby trees, I'll generally carry multiple sticks.
And you've got a YouTube channel where you've got videos of your one stick method and some of the other stuff as well. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. I did some videos because at the time I was getting a lot of flack for, oh man, you can't climb with one stick. That's way too strenuous, man. I'd work up a sweat. It's dangerous. It takes too much time. Yada yada yada. So I did a video comparison. I took a climber, climbing 20 foot. Took 3 sticks, climbing 20 foot. Took 1 stick, climbing 20 foot. And if you're looking at total time, you're not looking at 2 to 3 minutes different between any method.
And we can put a link to your YouTube channel in the show notes. But for somebody that's just listening, where can they find that?
That's a good question. I think it's C Big Bear would be my best guess, man.
C Big, like the letter C, B-I-G, and then Bear. Yeah. All right, cool. And we'll put a link in the show notes.
So you mentioned using the 8.5 pound Lone Wolf stand. Have you compared that to some of the newer models like the Alpha, for instance?
Yes. So with my little side business, mobile hunting gear, I do the stick Talons, which is basically a bracket system set up that bolts onto your stand to carry your sticks. So in the course of doing that, I've had my hands on just about every make and model stand out there. The Alpha is a good stand. It just doesn't really, I don't see the need for the size platform. I'm 5'10", 200 pounds, and I just don't, maybe for a taller guy, bigger frame or something, maybe, you can see the need for it. I got a hold of that older Lone Wolf, and the mods I've made to it now, it's back up to what a Assault 2 would weigh bone stock. But I have a XOP Maximus seat on it, so it's a much bigger seat than even the Assault 2 comes with now. So it's a bigger seat than what was on the Alpha, which adds a good bit of weight. It's completely paracord wrapped. It has the stick Talons on it. It's stealth stripped. It has tubular webbing covering up the cable guards. It has a bat wing on it now. That stand originally came with the V bracket. I switched that out for a bat wing, which that bat wing in the XOP 6-point brackets, I think that's kind of a must-have in a stand.
So you don't use the easy hang system then?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. I don't really see the benefit of it.
I'm weak, I guess. I like it. I flip it back and forth.
Yeah, a lot of people say that, it's the convenience of hanging it, but I normally just hold my stand when I hang it. If I felt I needed something, I think I would just go to just a regular piece of paracord with a S hook on it and just hook the stand up there to hang it. I don't really see the benefit of the easy hang, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I am probably one of the most uncoordinated individuals to ever walk the face of this earth. So I found that it's easier. It's like, all right, I put it in my pocket. I get up there, I sling that strap on and get my stand on it. It's easier for me. So that's what I've finally decided I'm going to keep doing.
Okay. So let me ask you this. You run 2 straps on the stand then?
Yeah. I still run the 2 straps. So I've got 3.
You still run 2 straps?
Yeah. Should I not? Should I just use the bottom and that easy hang in your opinion?
No, from what I understand with the easy hang is you still need to run the top and the bottom strap. Without the easy hang, you only run the top strap.
Okay.
And then you cam lock it. As a matter of fact, that old Assault I have only has one Versa button on it. So it didn't even come with the dual strap setup.
So my almost turned into a bad luck story this year was I put the easy hang on, I put the top strap on, and then I looked and didn't see another strap on the bottom, and I don't know if it fell off or what, but I got in my stand and that sucker was not steady, and that was the first time I sat the tree stand this year. I was like, man, it really felt like there was another strap down there. That was not safe.
It should have been down there. Yeah. And that's the way I understand the easy hang is you have to have the bottom strap for the stability because you don't have a way to cam lock it.
Yeah, I strap it all the way down now after that little incident.
Gotcha.
Have you tried any other stands? So you said you had your hands on a bunch of different ones. You had your hands on them. I'm guessing the Muddy, the XOP. There's a couple more out there. So you sticking with
Millennium.
Yeah.
Hawk.
Yeah, Millennium seems to be the next biggest seller for me, and it's a 50-50 split between the M100U and the M7. I get a few M60s, but it's pretty much M100Us and M7s. I've had both of them here and had my hands on them. The M100U for me is just a little bit too big of a stand. I really like the M7. The drawbacks, though, are I say drawbacks. I mean, I guess it's like anything else. If I got it, I would probably tear it all apart and build it to suit my needs. But if I had an M7, I'd have to fit a bat wing or the 6-point bracket some kind of way on it, which I don't think would be a huge problem. And then I would have to come up with some kind of Versa button type system to hang it. The drawback, it doesn't have any kind of leveling feature on the platform.
And that's really nice with
but
Lone Wolf.
It is. But then the benefits of the Millenniums is they're climber comfortable. I mean, they just blow Lone Wolf out the water when it comes to seat comfort. They don't pack as nice. They're not as quiet. They're not nearly as versatile, but they're comfortable. The rest, Muddies, Summits, Lock-ons, they all kind of, to me, in kind of just the same realm. They're just kind of a step down. If I was going to look at any of them, I would definitely go with the Millennium to pick up the comfort. But I think it's very hard to beat Lone Wolf and XOP with the cast platforms.
How about sticks? What kind of sticks are you running?
I am currently running Hawk Heliums, and 2 of them are cut down and modded. The middle step's taken out, so they're 23-inch sticks now, fully stealth stripped, and I ditched the hookup system and went with rope mods on them. And then my third stick is a regular length helium, switched out with Lone Wolf tree brackets on it, so it nests to my assault. I really like the heliums. I can't see switching. I will more than likely try out Dan's stuff when he comes out with it, and that's probably the only thing I see being an improvement to my current system.
Are you a fan
And
of
that's Dan Infault's sticks that he's designed himself. I actually had a chance to see those a couple weeks ago. I was really impressed with how light they are. I think it's 1.4 pounds per stick.
1.4, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that's Dan Infault from the Hunting Beast for anybody that's not familiar with those. And those are not on the market yet, but I know he's been in development, and I think they're getting pretty close on those.
Do you know what the total weight is on Dan's?
His are 1.4 pounds per stick.
Well, I mean, he has a stand too, right? Like the stand and the sticks. That's what I was thinking. I saw him on his website.
Yeah, I think with like 5 sticks, it was like 15 pounds.
Okay.
If I can remember right.
I want to say it was a sub 8-pound stand, but I think his goal is to get the sticks to market, and then the stand's probably going to have some lag time to it.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds right to me.
But for the time being, I do like my heliums. Dan's sticks will probably shave a little bit of weight. I guess the verdict's out on the folding, non-folding steps. It seems that, Dan and the guys who tried his sticks don't really mind the non-folding. Garrett has developed his own sticks with non-folding. So I guess I'll just have to give them a try and see. I kind of like my folding sticks, at least right now.
So it sounds like you spend almost as much or more time working on your setup and planning for going mobile as you do actually hunting every year. Can you kind of talk about that and then go into how you came up with your product as far as helping out with that?
That would be a very accurate assessment, and I can tell you why. If I had the choice, I'd spend more time in the woods scouting than I would tinkering with gear. However, when I have an hour free time, I can't go scouting. I can't even attempt it. I can't get halfway to my scouting spot in that time. So I go, you know what? It didn't sit right last hunt. Let me go fix that. So I'll go out to the garage and I'll fix whatever went wrong the last time. I'm very much kind of follow Dan's theory. Everything is a possibility that it could squeak once, but if it squeaks twice, it's your fault. So, I make sure that if I get an opportunity with the limited amount of time that I have to hunt, that my gear is not going to cost me a shot opportunity. And, generally when I go out, most of my tweaks are just because something, some efficiency I think I can gain in time or comfort or something. And that's generally, what leads to me fooling with my gear. I don't think I own anything that I bought off the shelf and I didn't do something to it to better fit my needs. And then as far as
your product goes, how did you end up developing it, and who would it benefit? Who would be interested, and how can they find it?
All right, so the stick Talons. I saw the Lone Wolf stick quiver. Really loved the idea of being able to pack multiple sticks, because at that time I was kind of transitioning from the one stick climbing to needing multiple sticks, but I did not like stacking the multiple sticks on the stand and having that larger profile. Laying them flat worked, but bungee cords and everything. So I'm like, let's stick quivers. That's the way to go. And then when I did some research on it, what turned me off was the fact that you had to take it off of your stand to hang it and keep up with it. Well, I didn't want to do that. It's the same reason I don't like bungee cords, because I don't like keeping up with them. Anything that's on my stand, I like it to be permanently on my stand where I can't lay it down and lose it. So I said, well, you know what? I can probably come up with something similar, but I just want it to stay on my stand. So I got playing around with stuff, and I got something that I was comfortable with. And the idea was to attach the sticks kind of to the outer sides of the stands and not to the seat post. And then what I quickly realized was that afforded me the ability to climb with my sticks in these brackets and not have to hang them off on my side. So I can basically set my stand up ready for packing. Let's say I always run 3 sticks. I generally run 1 aider always off the bottom stick, and then have a couple more aiders in case I need them off the other 2. Right now it's getting a little bit cooler here, so I have a jacket or something strapped to it. So I have a permanent strap that's bolted to my cable bolts on my stand, and it's an alligator strap which holds down that center stick, and also a jacket. And then my 2 side sticks are in stick Talons. I do not run any bungee cords on mine, although all of the sets that I sell have individual bungee cords with them. I don't run them for a couple of reasons, because I'm running the helium model Talons that hold the center post with like a rubber grommet, so they hold really tight, and I have that strap anyway. So I can walk up to a tree, never remove my stand. I reach behind my back, I unstrap my strap, I let my jacket fall to the ground, and I'll set it on top of my bow, or I'll tie it around my waist. Then I'll reach back and I'll grab that center stick, which is only held on by that strap. I'll put it on a tree and I'll start climbing. And I pull, the other stick out the talon, and then I go up and I pull the other stick out the talon. And then I hang my stand, and I have a paracord pull rope with a hook on it. I'll lower it down, hook my bow, and I'll pull my bow back up. And that's it. I'm done. One trip up. With all my stuff, and nothing hits the ground. A couple of reasons that I do this, and it's mainly here. It's the inclement weather we have in early season, and the abundance of mosquitoes we have. If anybody hunts in the South in October, when it's 90 degrees and those mosquitoes are so thick, you just kind of wipe them away. I want to get to my hunting height as quickly and as quietly as possible, so I can get my thermocell running and have a little bit of relief from the mosquitoes. So that's kind of the whole driving force and premise, and how I, came up with them. And I never had any intention to do anything with them. But I showed a buddy, and he's like, yeah, go ahead and make me a set. So I made him a set and showed another buddy, and they're like, well, why don't you start selling them? I don't know. So I kind of felt the waters out on the beast, and that's really where it got started. The bulk of my customers came from the hunting beast. Dan has been very generous in letting me post, stuff on the beast, and ran a lot of stuff through the hunting beast. So that's kind of, I guess, in a nutshell, how it got going.
And so if somebody's listening and isn't familiar with them, wants to learn some more about them, or is interested in buying a set, I guess one thing is how many do you need? How much do they cost, and where can somebody buy them?
Okay. Most people are going to run a 4-stick setup. So you're going to buy a set of Talons, which is 4. They're going to bolt to each corner of your stand. They'll work with any of the regular square tubing sticks, which would be Lone Wolf, Muddy. Trying to think of who else has the square tubing sticks. I think Gorilla had them at one time.
XOP.
They'll also work. Yeah, they'll work with XOP. They'll also work with Helium and Leverage, the I-beam type sticks. However, I generally tell people, just shoot me an email, just so I can see their setup or whatever. And when they order, send me another email to make sure that the order was, that I get them the right stuff, because it's definitely a different setup. I do my standard set for Talons for Lone Wolf and XOP. All that's interchangeable with the sticks, the stands, everything. I also do stuff for the 3 Millenniums I've listed. I can also do Muddies. So basically, if anybody's interested, they can go check them out at my website, which is mobilehuntinggear.com. If people want kind of like ideas, reviews, just kind of get a feel for what other people are saying about them, if they go on the Hunting Beast forum, search stick Talons, they'll probably find, most of their questions will be answered. If anybody wants to contact me, shoot me an email, brian@mobilehuntinggear.com. If you just have some kind of custom setup, say, I know I did a couple for Chippewa stands. If you have a stand out there that, you just not like your run-of-the-mill stand, shoot me an email. Give me your sticks, give me your setup, and, we'll see what we can do. I'm going to say 95% of the sets are $50, which includes shipping. And orders can be placed straight through my website.
Cool. All right. Well, I just got a couple other last questions for you. What is one thing that maybe what's one easy thing most hunters could do as far as making their setup more mobile friendly? Or maybe a couple things that, if somebody hasn't done anything to their setup, the first couple things you might do.
All right. Well, the first thing I'm going to recommend is to check out a rock climbing harness, because the versatility that they afford, and I just think they're a safer harness to use. Number two, I think you should definitely make sure your stand is quiet. Get with Uncle Lou, get everything you possibly can stealth stripped, so you don't have to worry about dinging and danking and making any kind of noise. And then the third thing I think that helps is, do whatever you can to cut weight. And I think the most efficient way to cut weight is to explore adding some kind of aiders to your stick. So if you're carrying 4 now, add an aider and cut to 3. If you're carrying 5 now, add an aider and cut to 4.
All right, and Uncle Lou is a member on the Hunting Beast as well. He's makes a product called the Cell Strips, which is this is probably simplifying it too much, but adhesive felt that you can put on there that will help keep it quiet. And you mentioned the aiders a couple times. That's basically a webbing or rope that you hang from the bottom step that somebody can climb up as a ladder. And the one other thing I'll add is I've been running rock climbing harness for a couple of years now, and I actually use it with my climbing stand quite a bit. To me, it gives me way more mobility while in the stand, and it was way more comfortable, lightweight. Adam, what are you using for a harness right now?
I'm using the Hunter Safety System Ultra Light, and I have been eyeballing the rock climbing harness. I guess I haven't felt comfortable enough to jump in there and do it, but you guys keep talking about it, and I know I need to. So I know I've mentioned on this podcast that I've actually fell out of a tree stand before. I fell out of a ladder stand, and the ladder stand came apart anyways. That was a bad deal. So I've always tried to stay connected, and I would like to ask, do you use a lineman's belt while you climb, Bryan?
Absolutely. I guess that is the biggest hang-up for rock climbing harnesses for people. I think there may be 2 models out there, and they're pretty pricey, that actually have rated gear loops that you can use as a lineman's belt. So something that would be, you buy it straight off the shelf and it's ready to go like a full body, hunting harness is. However, adding a lineman's belt system to any rock climbing harness is relatively simple and relatively cheap. My recommendation for most people is to go try. I use an Alpine BOD. Black Diamond makes it. I've tried, I want to say 4 or 5 harnesses, and I keep coming back to this particular one. My original one, I think I've had it. I think it was used for about 5 years before it got to a point where I said, well, I might as well go ahead and get me something new. And I winded up, trying several others, and then came back and ultimately bought me another Alpine BOD. Most of the time they run $35 to $40. So for that price, try it. If you don't like it, resell it. But if you will buy a rock climbing harness and take your regular old tree tether that you have with your full body harness right now, hook yourself up, close to the ground, standing on a chair or something, and then just kind of sit down in it. And then take your full body harness and do the same thing. You will be sold. You won't switch back.
I'll have one on the way before midnight.
and use huntinggeardeals.com to find that deal.
Oh yeah,
you
better go list one, Mike, because I'm hot headed to buy, man. I'm waiting.
I'll see what I can find real quick, because I do try to list some deals on that when I see it. And Adam,
Mike,
I'll say I was
model
running
do you
that.
use?
What's that?
What model do you use?
I use, you know what? I can't even remember what brand it is, but I actually did some rock climbing back in college, and it's just one I had left over. So it's not one that I bought specifically for that. It doesn't have any special features. It's just a rock climbing harness. It has a loop in the front, just like most of them will, that you can belay off of. And I actually used your method to make the lines monument belt. So I have a loop of webbing that goes around behind me, and it's got a couple loops on each end where I can attach my lineman's rope to that. So that works real well for me. I can't even tell you what brand it is.
Yeah, anybody interested in rock climbing harnesses, there's a ton of information on Archery Talk. A lot of it bad bickering back and forth, but there's a ton of information. And then also Garrett DIY Sportsman. Pretty much our setups mirror each other. I think he uses a different brand, but I know before he put out his videos, and really when he made the switch, we had talked a lot, and we do everything very similar. And his videos are just top notch. They're detailed. He walks you through the exact way to set up a lineman's belt. He puts the links for the material. I would direct anybody interested in the rock climbing harness, go check out Garrett's YouTube, and you can see how it works, and you can see how to set it up.
Well, hey, Bryan, I think we got really deep into some cool topics about mapping and mobile hunting. Do you got anything, any last words you want to share with us before we close this up?
Nope, guys. Just appreciate y'all having me on. Enjoy y'all's podcast.
All right, man. We appreciate it. Yeah, it was fun talking mobile hunting, especially for me. And I know Adam was geeking out on the maps.
I'm not sure how I missed you guys when y'all come down to New Orleans, man.
Yeah. Well, one thing we've been talking about, maybe this is one last thing we can touch on, is Adam and I have been talking about in the coming years, maybe getting together, do a late season hunt in Mississippi, trying to catch that late rut. Do you have any advice for somebody that is looking at maybe trying to get a late season hunt in and heading out of state?
Find another state instead of Mississippi, man. Non-resident license are ridiculous.
Alabama, huh?
Yeah, you just narrowed it down for me. Yeah, because I have done some Alabama hunting. It is you can get I think a 3-day license in Alabama is around $130, and a 10-day is around $170. How's that compare in Mississippi?
Well, I don't know what the I don't know what the short-term license run. I only buy them by the year. Everything, it cost me $380. Now Mississippi, I'll take that back. Mississippi still does not have tags. So technically you're not buying tags. You're buying a license that is good for 1 year from the purchase date. So say you guys decide to come do a late season, one to hit the rut, purchased it late December. It's good till the following December. And so it's good for, I'm pretty sure, $3 and 3 does. So technically you could kill $3 December, January, then turn around and come back the following year and kill $3 more on it before December. So I guess the bang for your buck is, it's a good deal. However, if you plan on making like a 5-day trip, it would probably be cheaper to go to other states.
I pulled up the Google machine, and it looks like you can do a 3-day all-game hunting, if I'm reading this right, in Mississippi for $125, but you also got to buy the WMA user permit, so that's $30. It's not too bad.
$35, huh?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's not too bad for a 3-day hunt then. Yeah. I guess they really just hit you up if you're doing the whole season. Then do they do a 7-day or no?
They do. So 7-day. It says 125 as well. That doesn't make any sense. There's got to be something in there. That's the difference. Okay, this does not. The 7-day does not include archery, primitive weapon, and crossbow bow permit.
Gotcha.
Mike, you still here? Did you drop off? Well, I think.
Hey, man, I've been talking this whole time on mute, so I've had some really good things to say, and y'all missed out on them. I was talking about some really important stuff, but yes,
I'm not editing that out.
You can get the 7-day all game hunting, or you can get the archery primitive weapon crossbow permit, which is also good for 7 days. Actually, you know what? That has to be bought in addition to the 7-day. So you're looking at $125 for your 7-day all game, and then you got to get another permit, which is another $75 for your all game hunting with your archery primitive weapon crossbow permit. So
and the WMA
$200.
So really, it looks like you just about got to buy the all game hunting, which is good for a year. So the way to do it is what you said. Do it like a December hunt, I guess it goes all the way into January, right? So if you bought your permit
January 31st,
maybe the third week in January, then the next week you go the second week in January, so you get 2 years out of your $300.
Yep.
Thanks for convincing me, Bryan.
Yep. Either that or you just go to. I'm a big fan of Missouri. 225, man. For two buck tags, man.
Well, maybe you let me and Mike tag along.
Getting up there.
All right, so we got lots of options for late season. Maybe everybody out there in podcast land can start planning for next year. But Bryan, thanks a lot for coming on. It was a lot of fun talking to you.
Truly appreciate it, Bryan.
Yeah, same here, guys. Yep, same thing.
All right, good luck. Good luck the rest of the season. I know you're just getting going. Hope you get a big one.
All right, man. Thank you.
Man, Adam, I think we got deep into some weeds there. We got some serious info on mapping, mobile hunting out of state. I think we got some real valuable stuff. If you're hunting small piece of private land on your own and you're not hunting any public or anything, I'd say thanks for sticking with us through that. But if you're hunting public land and you're trying to get deep into public and find new spots, that kind of stuff, I think there's a ton of value in here. What did you think, Adam?
Yeah, it's I was sitting here thinking this is going to be a lot of show notes is what I pulled from that. Lots of links, lots of information. Honestly, we had to probably hurry through some of these topics. I think both of us would have just enjoyed to spend like 3 hours, probably 45 minutes on each topic, just picking Bryan's brain. So maybe in the future we'll have an opportunity to do that, even if it's not on the podcast. But I pulled a lot of good information out of that one.
Yeah, I could definitely spend like an hour on YouTube once in a while just looking at mods and that kind of stuff for tree stand setups. If you're hunting ladder stands week in and week out, nothing wrong with that. But this stuff is probably a little bit useless to you. But if you're really into trying to get mobile and that kind of stuff, there's some cool stuff we got here. And I will say, jumping around on private land, there might be some opportunities to try a few of these things just to be a little bit more mobile on your sets.
Yeah, and if you've got some public land nearby and you just don't want to burn out your sets on private, it'd be a great chance to just go in there and try something new. I wish, for the past 7 or 8 years, however long I've lived here, gosh, it's been longer than that, in this area, I wish I'd have been doing that. If I'd have been doing I had access to a lot of private land, if I'd been going to public land just every once in a while, trying out new techniques, I would have had a lot more hunting spots up my sleeve once I'd actually lost access to private land. So just try something new is what I encourage everyone to do.
Yeah, I think that's some really good advice. I've been hunting public just about this whole year, but I can tell you I miss the different aspect of. I'm sorry, I've been hunting private mostly this year. I miss the aspect of the public where it. I don't think there's anything wrong with this as far as hunting. I'm kind of a competitive person, and I've got nothing. I want everybody else to do real well, but just the idea that I'm out there, in a tougher environment, is exciting to me. So even though the chances of actually harvesting an animal is a lot lower, there's just something about public that's cool. And if you've got a small piece of land, it's a great opportunity to take some pressure off of that property and save those spots for the very best times of year, just by hunting some of the areas around you.
Oh yeah, don't go into your best tree stand location when the wind's totally all wrong, or it's real warm. Go to that public land spot. It just makes a ton of sense.
Hey, so in the few minutes since we finished recording this, I kind of re-looked over some of those Mississippi things that we were talking about. And the reason the 3-day and the 7-day are different prices is the 3-day license includes all those extra permits you got to get, or a lot of them. So it doesn't include a couple, but basically for $125 you can get a 3-day license. $30 you can hunt public, and another $5 you can hunt deer. So add those together. I think it's $160. Then you can hunt 3 days in Mississippi. So it's not completely out of control like maybe we were talking about, but that's not super cheap for 3 days either. Just something to consider if you're considering a late season hunt. This is going to be coming out in December. So if it's something you're thinking about, you might be able to squeeze one in, drive a couple states over, and get a rut hunt in.
Yeah. Drive them down.
Pick up Adam hit him up on social media and tell him you're coming to get him.
Chase the MTN on Twitter. Just make sure you don't have any Roll Tide stickers on your truck, and we're good to go. Hey man, and I wanted to ask, what was the non-resident license in Alabama for the 3-day? Do you have that off the top of your head?
I haven't looked yet this year, but it was like $131.
So it's pretty close to the same.
And I don't think you have to buy any separate permits. And I can tell you in Alabama, you get, I believe it's $3, and maybe I think it's like $3, and then several. Basically, there's more permits than you're going to be able to use in a 3-day license anyway.
And I don't know about you, but Alabama's a much easier drive for me to get down to that Black Belt region than it is to get down to Mississippi.
They're both a long freaking drive for me. That's what I know.
That sucks for you. I'll pick you up at the airport.
Yeah. Sounds good, man. All right, let's let these people go. This has been a good long podcast with lots of good information. Not sure when we're get to the next one. And so Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year. And we're going to see you next year. We do have some other guests lined up. We're doing our best to bring in some more expert hunters for you. If you have any advice for future episodes, people we should interview, definitely let us know, and keep giving us those rating reviews. Check out huntinggeardeals.com. Check out the blog at Taste the Mountain, and thank you so much for all your support. We've been getting more and more feedback, and we love it, so keep that up. And I'm out down south.
Out down south.